fires me up every time. All right, Judd'z Budz, episode 128. I got that one quick because I wrote it down earlier. As always, your host, folks, Z, joined by my good buddy, Mr. At State of Hoppy. Sorry, I forgot to mention it's the Gretzky plus Marc-Andre Fleury episode. There we go. Hoppy, how we doing?
Nice. We're doing good. We're doing all right. Survived a long weekend, like I was telling you beforehand. And I just got to mention to people, anyone that plays cards and knows all of these different variations to 7-card stud, I almost got the next concussion that puts me out of being able to do anything normal humans do. It's wild.
Like
That's
being a father?
Wasn't a father for the weekend, so that, I guess, is the flip. That's the trade-off.
Fair enough, I guess.
Kids stayed home with the wife. she would argue I wasn't a father for the weekend.
Yeah, it depends who you ask her. That's always a good source. I mean, I'm already losing internet, so this is good. It's actually, I forgot to text you, it's getting worse every day. Where like, I don't have internet anymore. Like and I upgraded too. It's like, yeah, no, it's great. We're going to charge you more, but like work significantly less. It's great. I mean, no easy way to just kind of start this off, but I think there's only one way we can. The tragic passing of Johnny Gaudreau and his brother. I'll let you take the lead. I've said this before. I never know how to actually kind of do this in the podcast, especially one like this. But a fucking horrific story and just an absolute tragedy. But I'll let you go off here for a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to lead with the fact that this is tragic no matter who it happened to. Doesn't matter that it was like a world-class hockey player, but obviously it made the rounds and became such a story because of like what a great guy he was, given his platform and his status. Just tragic, though, like Z said. So Johnny, or John, as everyone is now saying, he actually preferred to be called, Gaudreau, and his brother Matt were biking alongside the road last, what would it have been, Thursday night, I believe? Yeah, Thursday night, out in New Jersey. And a drunk driver swerved around a car to try and pass them, and unfortunately ended both John and Matt's lives in doing so. The tragic becoming more devastating. They were out there together because the next day was supposed to be their sister's wedding. And I can only imagine that did not end up happening, because I don't know how you could ever look back on what's supposed to be the best day of your life with positive memories if that happens the night before out of the blue. I also definitely don't want to like stoke the flames with rumors necessarily, but it sounds like part of what happened here was, drunk driver who he's, alleging he had like 5 or 6 beers. I don't know, and that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But apparently the vehicle in front of him swerved to the side to like give proper space to John and Matt, and the alleged driver, who was already kind of trying to pass these people, thought that they were trying to block him. So he decides he's going to swerve and go around that car to try and pass them. Again, resulting in pretty horrible results. I mean, there's been outpouring from every corner of the internet for this, because again, like such a respected, not only, player in Johnny, but like the Gaudreau family, very well respected, and like obviously everyone is going to very much miss these guys. But just seeing the messages from their wives that were posted online, like that was enough for me. That pretty much buried me. I have nothing more to really add to it. It's absolutely tragic. I don't know what really can be done, but it looks like everyone's ready to do it, whatever that is. We're going to have to like make some kind of showing for that opening game as the Wild host the Columbus Blue Jackets. But Z, going back to his lineage where he became Johnny Hockey, won the Heisman, did the whole thing. Like, you obviously watched him before NHL, watched him quite a bit in college. This is a guy that everyone said wasn't ever even going to really have a chance to play in the NHL. And obviously went on and did the thing. But anything you want to touch on just from the Boston side of things for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think another guy that, again, like, obviously we first and foremost think of the Gaudreaus and his wife, the direct family, but I mean, another guy who recently lost his brother, and Kevin Hayes. Johnny Gaudreau was one of his best friends, played with him at BC. The way that he put it is pretty much said he's the most unassuming superstar that he's ever met in his life. And I mean, you can just tell the infectious personality that he had, how many guys across the league he knew just through his college, playing on a couple different NHL teams. But I mean, like, there were some sad but beautiful messages just from guys he wouldn't have even thought of, like, had some kind of connection to Johnny Gaudreau. But I mean, again, another guy that you think of is someone like Kevin Hayes, who's now had a couple just tragic losses over the last few years. But I mean, yeah, like you said, it was a kid who was like 5'7", 140 pounds, soaking wet, playing college hockey. Big question marks whether he'd be able to play in the NHL. And I mean, he immediately stepped in and proved everyone wrong. And again, I think the way that Kevin Hayes put it, where he's the most unassuming superstar that he's ever met in his life, is just, it kind of speaks to who he is as a humble person. But I mean, again, there's not a great way there is no good way of kind of talking about this, but it's an unbelievably horrific, tragic, just devastating event that happened on and avoidable, which is the other part of this, is incredibly avoidable. And it's horrific. So, I mean, obviously everyone's thoughts goes out to the Gaudreau family and his friends, everyone who's ever crossed paths with him. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more to even really add. Just it was horrible, and it's hard not to get emotional just kind of scrolling through social media and seeing all those messages. But hockey's obviously one giant family, and I'm sure obviously it doesn't really kind of fill the hole, but hockey's always, the community is going to come together and be there for the Gaudreau. So rest in peace, Johnny and Matt Gaudreau.
Rest in peace, boys. And I mean, on a lighter note with them, I mean, on the note of being just an unassuming superstar, right? I'm sure there's other pros that are like of the same ilk that, don't play up like they've got all of this money and they're star athletes, but all the stories you hear about Johnny Gaudreau, whether it's having a ham and cheese sandwich when guys are going out for sushi, or Aaron Portzline when he goes out and, wants to memorialize him on The Athletic, says that like everyone's showing up in like suits and fancy clothes, and Johnny has a shirt that looks 7 years expired and he's in flip-flops in the middle of winter. Like, he's just like, he's one of us. He's a guy's guy who just happened to be incredibly gifted at hockey and never let it change anything about how he approached life. And that's, I think, what makes it so like cool who he was. Yeah. And it's going to be 100%. Deeply missed. I don't have much more to say.
Yeah.
Well, not. I don't know if there's a good way to transition out of that. I will say that obviously it goes without saying that he's going to be missed by Team USA coming up for the Olympics, right? Like, this is a guy that's been penciled in for God knows how long, for when we finally get the best of the best coming back. Interesting developments with the Olympics, Z, where we've got the 3 teams that got named to be added for where is it in Italy? I'm spacing now. Is it Milan? Something like that.
I find out. Oh, come on. No.
Yeah, your internet's struggling.
Am I already gone? It's
No, you're not
so
gone.
horrific.
Well, here, I'll just cover it. The 3 teams that have recently qualified for Olympic participation, we've got Denmark, Slovakia, and Latvia locking up the final spots. But the real question here, looking forward, is whether or not Russia's going to be allowed to compete. And I believe it's actually France that's tabbed to potentially take their spot if they don't compete. It's obviously a very touchy subject because us as hockey fans, we would love to see those players, but hard to not understand why there's certain countries that would take issue with that.
Yeah, I have this strange feeling, regardless of how the next, whatever it is, year and a half goes, probably won't be. I would assume Russia's not going to be taking part. But yeah, like you said, I think it was France. They lost to, God, was it? God, I
think
had
they were
it down
Denmark, weren't they?
2 seconds ago.
No,
Latvia beat
Latvia.
France 5-2.
I love how they
yeah.
have it. The way it's written in the article I've got pulled up. Denmark beat Norway. Slovakia defeated Kazakhstan. Latvia cruised past France. And France is the one that gets it.
Yeah. Shout out Dan Sluck-Mellis, Boston Bruins prospect, playing at UMass, stepped in. I think he recorded an assist in that game against France. But the one thing that I am very excited about is the Latvian fans being at the Olympics. They are out of their mind. It's the one, like, no matter how good or bad that team is looking at any World Junior or U18 World Championship, those fans are standing and going absolutely berserk all game, every game. They're incredible fans, so that's going to be very fun to see at the Olympics. I don't even. The people are obviously putting their rosters together already. I can't get myself there yet. It's so weird trying to project a roster like 2 years out, but it's also just weird that we're gonna have the NHL players back in the Olympics. Like I can't get it's not computing in my brain. Like it is not.
It's gonna be so fun.
All I know is love USA's odds.
They've got to be the favorite, right?
They have to be. I mean, even just look at the goaltending. You know what I mean? Like, God, it's insane.
I think it goes without saying that tips the scales. Like, it would be maybe you'd even lean a touch towards Canada if goaltending wasn't a factor, but having arguably the best goaltending, especially if Russia's not participating, right? The USA has no question the best goaltending. Canada's got to be among the worst. Am I out of line for saying that? I mean, sorry, out of the big nations, right? The contenders, they have the worst goaltending, do they not?
I was trying to remember like who they even had tabbed to be like the projected starter, and I know at one point people are mentioning like Bennington. I was like, if that's the case,
I think it's him. Who else is there? Is Marc-Andre Fleury still going to be playing?
Maybe. Let me pull this up here. Let's see. Oh yeah, they're always reliable. Bleacher Reports way too early 2020. Why would my internet work though? That would be weird.
Yeah, it would be weird.
Let's just slowly load this up. Yeah, no, this is I was hoping this wouldn't work. Anyway, oh, there we go. Come on, where's Canada? Canada. Where is Canada? Oh my God. That can't be okay. Well, this is Bleacher Report, so I guess I can't really. Goaltenders. This is posted in July. Way too early, 2026. Wait, it's significantly worse than you think. Stuart Skinner, Tristan Jarry, Aiden Hill. That does not sound right though.
You know what though?
It can't be accurate.
You're gonna call me biased and like whatever. If he's healthy, Tristan Jarry is a good goalie. Like that's better than what I actually had in mind for them. I spaced on him because oh, weird, he's like not always playing. But I don't know. Canadian goalies currently in NHL. Oh, here we go. 7 realistic Team Canada goalie candidates for 2026 Olympics, which this was like back in February. So again, grain of salt. But Stuart Skinner, which, I mean, if he progresses and gets more consistent, it's not outrageous. Aiden Hell, oh man, that would be, I mean, again, he's not a bad goalie, but to be your starter, tough. Tristan Jerry, Logan Thompson, Devin Levi, Sam Montembeau, and Jordan Bennington. Wow.
Yeah, this is actually it. Just I literally just pulled up last year's goaltending stats, and I'm like, I actually can't believe how bad it is.
And of course, like until about a year ago, I wasn't on this train even when he was playing, but everyone thought for sure Carter Hart was going to be the guy. No, definitely not.
Smell you later, loser.
Get out.
Well, Team Canada, they might.
I
mean, yeah, then it's crazy, dude. Like, yeah, no, we're not even gonna. But USA, I mean, like, Hellebuck, Demko, Ottinger, Swayman, Lindgren. I know there's.
I mean, are we gonna say Gibson?
Jonathan Quick.
Hey,
Gibson. Yeah, no, it's like
there's going to be some stars.
I just pulled up yeah, no, the audit, it's crazy.
USA and Russia have the goalies.
Yeah, not bad.
Like Russia literally has 3 of the top 5 goalies in the world, and they won't be there.
It's great. Yeah. Like, I mean, Bob, Shesterkin, Sorokin, Vasilevsky. Like, that's crazy.
I didn't even think about Bob. Bob wasn't one of the 3.
Yeah. Again, wow. It blows. It's crazy just because of how it's gone in Florida for Bob. But like now that he's got the cup, he's got like people like it kind of makes him like he's got what 2 or 3 Vezinas at his cup. Is he a Hall of Fame? Like that doesn't feel right, but I mean I guess it's hard to argue the fucking resume. It's crazy.
You want to hear something blasphemous that's going to get me yelled at?
Uh-oh.
Based on ice play, generally speaking, he is no less deserving than Marc-Andre Fleury.
Right. Yeah.
Put Bobrovsky on all of those teams. Like, does it look any different?
No, I'm not going to yell at you.
No, others will. It'll be in the comments. Yeah.
You can always rely on that, you know.
Yeah, right.
God, I can't. I still am just NHL players at the Olympics, baby. Oh,
it is going to be really fun. Really, really, really fun. We just need to have a moment that can match the TJ Oshie again.
Right. Is he playing this year? He said he's like, I will. But he's like, I feel like I saw a quote from him a few weeks ago where he's like, yeah, I don't know what all these reporters are saying, but yeah, I'm absolutely playing. And I'm like, you've officially gone like it's just a flesh wound, Monty Python. Like, bro, do you want to? But I mean, that's the guy that was put on this earth to be in that locker room with the fellas.
That is a fact.
Yeah, like that is his favorite shit in the world, and you just know he is an absolute locker room glue guy beauty. Oh, yeah. But I feel like I did see a quote. He's like, yeah, I don't know why I wouldn't play it, and everyone's like, I don't know, because like you're dead. Like
it's hilarious though, because like
you walk every day.
I don't know. You hold up 2 pictures, right? It's TJ Oshie and Nicklas Backstrom. They look identical. Yeah, Backstrom, no fucking chance I'm ever playing again. Oshie, you think I'm not going to be there for the opener? Like, what?
Yeah. By the way, Nick Backstrom, you know how everyone just picks someone who the most underrated player in the league. Everyone, like forever, it was like Barkov, which I even still see people trying to. I'm like, shut the fuck up with saying that Barkov was.
And now they're saying that he's like a top 5 player in the world.
That was wrong after like his 3rd year in the league. Like I was like, don't just say maybe because you don't watch the Florida Panthers. I was like, don't just say because you don't watch the Florida Panthers at that point that he's like everyone, like everybody knows how nasty he is. If you
back
just
then that was a like reasonable argument though. I just why would I watch the Panthers?
But my yeah. My answer for like probably 7 or 8 years was always Nick Backstrom. He is, when healthy, and realistically, he remained pretty healthy every year up until a couple of years ago when he had the one bad one, then he just never came back, obviously. But that guy is fucking unbelievable. And it is absolutely not him just doing like giving Ovechkin one-timers or whatever on the power play. Two-way, the skill, like that kid, or that, I can't say kid. Even I'm younger than him. He was fucking unbelievable. Like he stepped into the NHL, and until he got hurt, he was nasty. But he's always been one of my answers because everyone, like when you look at the Capitals, it's always like Ovechkin, and then if you want to go defense, it's like Carlson, or when Mike Reed was there scoring fucking 30 goals. But for me, it was always Backstrom. But I had to sneak that one in there once you brought up Backstrom.
No,
I fucking Barkov's underrated. I can't. I still see people doing it. I'm like, I will find you.
It's brutal, man. People always like cling to the same person. I don't know. For me, it's always going to be Nikolai Ehlers until he finally gets his fair due. It's like people don't know that he's nasty. But it's just like Backstrom, right? Like you should know he's nasty, but like, why doesn't he really ever get talked about?
Yeah, I mean, he's only had 1 or 2 seasons where he's like the stats have actually popped off, but he is filthy. He's one of my favorite players in the league. I thought he was for sure getting traded this year.
Dude, there was light talk about Pittsburgh. I would have loved it.
Another answer of my last couple of years, up until actually, I mean, when he was healthy this year.
I think I know you're gonna say
Bjorkstrand when he was in Columbus, dude.
Okay, no, I loved him too. I was with you on that.
Yeah,
we both
remember how that was a fucking cap dump.
That trade was insane.
I threw up in my mouth. I might do it again. Probably will do it again at some point. That was always. I
thought for sure you were going to go with the Florida defenseman.
Oh no!
Now it's way overplayed.
It's just been a couple of years.
I'm trying to think.
He's going to be the next one.
Who are some of the most underrateds? This is a stretch. I wouldn't put him in the category, but I feel like he needs to at least be mentioned. Rupe Hintz. I feel like he's better than a lot of fans want to give him credit for. But he's not like aggressively underrated. For a while, it was Braden Point, but he is long that.
Yeah. I cannot believe how bad this internet is. But yeah, I mean, fun fact, Rupe Hintz' first like 2 or 3 years in the league. Do you do DraftKings? We can fuck them actually from the old show. But whatever, you're picking your roster, like the cheapest ones, 2,500. So you always have one guy that's like super cheap that you need to add to your roster, add a bunch of the guys with the high salaries or whatever. Rupe Hintz was always 2,700 every week. And it was like first couple of years, put up like 15 goals, 20 assists. So I was he was my first pick that whole season. I think it was 2018, 19 or 17, 18. And then I guess also, well, actually both, I guess, but he was my first pick every time because he was never more than like $2,700. and he came through in the clutch. He won me a total of like $8. So thanks, bro. Appreciate it. I'm sure that's going to mean a lot. I'm sure that's going to mean a lot to him.
Light at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Most underrated Wild player.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, I think another great answer has always been Jonas Brodin.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, everyone's like, oh, he is fucking unbelievable. Yeah. Then I remember he signed that deal. Was it 8 years, $6 million per? And the whole NHL, every fan base was like, what a terrible deal. That guy fucking sucks. And I'm like, oh, you've never watched the Minnesota Wild play hockey, like ever. I think Brodin was always a good for like most underrated defenseman, especially the league. Like that was a guy when healthy, skating backwards, which like keeping up with Connor McDavid. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be between him and Eck, right?
Yeah, I mean, X always tough. I mean, X still is, I guess, because like
I think within the fan base,
still don't know how he
but
scores like 30 goals.
Yes.
Right.
Your internet's so bad.
It's it's not going to get better either. So
that's okay. We're gonna power through.
I'm here.
Well, that's good. Happy to have you. All right. Last one on the NHL front, and we'll kind of transition with this into the prospect stuff. So Isha can cut it wherever he wants. But Seth Jarvis gets damn near an 8x8, continuing the trend of these young guys absolutely getting paid coming off their ELCs. One, what do you think about the deal?
It's 8, but it's also kind of a 9x8 because they get $500K off their cap hit every year because the last year defers salary to a 9th year. So he's got if they had just done everything and he hadn't deferred the last year's salary, it would have been 7.9 per because he deferred the pay order. It's literally he's getting paid over 9 years. Which I didn't know you could do that in the NHL.
I was going to say that seems
it brought it back down to 7.4. And I guess Chris Johnston had a mini thread about it, and they were like, all the execs were like, yeah, no, this is fine. Like everyone knows you can do this. But I was like, well, not me. But it's like none of the guys, and you can understand the NHL. They are like, we're getting every penny as soon as we possibly can because this is the fucking NHL. So no guys actually want to defer their salary any extra years. But yeah, he's getting paid over a 9-year period, which brought his cap hit down $500,000 every year, which isn't an insignificant amount.
When he signs a new contract, then he'll just double dip on that 9th year. Like, it's just weird.
I don't know. He's just like part of that old contract is still just it's the same thing. Like Suter's been bought out 17 times. The whole league is paying him when he plays for one team, like one of those situations. You can double dip, I guess, for a year. But cool. I mean, good on him for doing it and helping out Carolina, kind of. I mean, again, like in today's NHL, I guess always in the NHL, $500,000 in space isn't nothing. Like,
yeah,
it adds up. So
the Wild would love it.
Good on him for doing it. And I mean, as long as Jarvis stays on this trajectory he's on, which I think he absolutely will because he's sick, that's a phenomenal deal. The fact that he's getting paid less than 8 is crazy. Every year, like I would have penciled in for like 8.5 minimum.
Well, and we're going to get into it a little bit here with Corey Pronman going through the NHL prospect pipeline rankings, but he actually said pretty positive things about Marco Rossi. But it's just funny the way he says, like, oh, like he was way overvalued in his draft year because of that 1 year that he absolutely popped playing for Ottawa. But then he doubled back to say, like, if you redrafted that year, he probably goes to the same spot with all the guys that shuffle up and down.
Yeah, no,
one of the guys that a lot of fans were talking about was Seth Jarvis going after Marco Rossi.
Right. Well, we had 1 year of everyone, well, not even a full year, but we also had the thing where Jack Quinn played good for 45 games in the NHL the 1 year while Marco Rossi was out with fucking myocarditis.
Yeah.
And everyone, and like, I mean, we had fucking half the Buffalo fans be like, ha! You see? Or actually, who was it? And I don't even, actually, I'm not even going to, fuck it, I'll play. Like, I think it was Harrington, the guy that covers the Sabres, was just like, basically shitting on anyone that said it. I'm like, bro, you didn't fucking know. Like, you didn't know who either of these fucking guys were when they were getting drafted. Fuck off. He was like, and just so it shows, don't listen to those armchair GMs. Like, bro, ask anyone who fucking watches like anyone that follows draft stuff. I bet you they're still saying that they probably should have taken Rossi. Like, it doesn't matter. But it was, 45 games. Jack Quinn was fucking, and he's gonna be sick. Jack Quinn's nasty. Again, great player. But it was just like, it was a crazy thing for like, someone to be like, ha, see, this is proof. But I'm like, this has been 8 minutes. It's been like, that's a crazy thing that you just need to do. And I've said this forever. It's like, I don't know why, but the pessimistic fan, I'm a pessimist just about life in general, but not about like hockey that bad. Like there's a joke in there somewhere, but like, you know, they have to call a draft pick a bust early. It's premature, but there's a joke in there somewhere. But like people need to do it. It's crazy to me how like there's just this incessant need to shit on a GM, which like also, by the way, the GMs are not fucking scouting. Like almost none of them are actually doing that. So it's a really weird thing to hold over GM's heads. But I don't get it. Like the fans that are like, I got to make sure that if this kid doesn't look good for like a game and a half, I'm be like, yeah, I fucking knew it. I'm like, okay, this is so weird. But you know what? These kids are 19. You're right. You should shit on them as a 46-year-old. There you go. I said my piece on that. It's been a while. It's been a while since I got that rant off my chest. That felt good. I feel like I'm so back now.
On your chest.
We can move on.
Off your chest. All right. You know what the difference is between a chickpea and a garbanzo bean?
No, don't.
You do know this one?
Just say. Yeah.
Oh, if you know it, I don't need to say it.
I didn't need that. I'm back. Belong back. Okay.
All right. So talking about those rankings then from Corey Pronman, on the latest, or not latest, but recently they did all last week, those delayed prospect rankings. Like I mentioned to you before, Holloway was a key prospect for Edmonton. And this is like 2 or 3 weeks after the initial offer sheet. But the Wild fell in the group of 9 to 16. Out of this group, and I won't have all 8 off the top of my head, but I'm going to list off a bunch of the teams, and you tell me where you think the Wild roughly stacks up. And this is guys, I think the cutoff is like 23 for Pronman. It's like Matt Boldy just graduated, quote unquote. Is it 22? 22. Okay. So it was the St. Louis Blues, Seattle Kraken, Detroit Red Wings, Buffalo Sabres, Minnesota Wild. Who else was in this mix? I said Buffalo Sabres. That's as many as I can remember right now, so I'm missing a couple. Where do you put the Minnesota Wild among that group?
probably towards the tail end. I see people going back and forth a lot with like the Blues. And I think the Blues have made a couple. Like, I mean, the fact they had 3 first-rounders last year.
Mm-hmm. Blues were at the very end of Promen's list, 9 to 16.
Right. I gotta find I had the list up a second ago. Oh, here it is. Yeah, Blues, Rangers, Wings, Flyers, Canes, Sabres, Wild, Kraken. That was the 9 to 16. And then looking at that again, because he has them 10th. So he's right. Yep. They're right behind Seattle in that. And now that I actually like look at it, they're probably, because I mean the Flyers were pretty bare for a while, and then obviously last couple of drafts, people can say what they want about this past draft, but I mean the fact you have Michkov sit there, that's a real nice piece of business that automatically shoots you up a few spots. Carolina, like I feel like it's all about the value with them. They may not be like picking super early, but like that's what gives that prospect pool a big plus. The Red Wings, they've had a couple guys recently just like graduate into NHL roles, or I guess for Prodman, I guess be older than 22. So, because that was the interesting thing about this list, because it just is age. Like, I mean, we're still considering like we're saying Faber, right? We're still in this list, so that kind of like made it. Obviously, that changed it a little bit here. And then the Rangers have a couple guys that they picked up late the last few years, like in the first or second round, that like have really kind of popped off and look like pretty solid prospects. And again, like the Blues, like they have the jump. You like the fact you picked 3 times in the first round last year. Pick up a kid like Jiricek this year, plus a couple other nice pickups. I think like that order doesn't like shock me. So like again, like you said too, like a guy like Boldy graduates out of like this list. But the Wild have also had a couple guys that were drafted super early, like they kind of age out, or they're still like figuring out pro hockey, which like it's interesting how that always changes things too, where it's like you have all the stock in the world when you first get drafted or before you get drafted, and then like if one year you don't like pop off playing in the AHL or whatever, or like in Lambos's case, you can say what you want about his last WHL season. It's hard to like put any confidence in any take if you haven't watched that team like game in, game out. But like I guess people would have said that maybe they would have expected more or whatever. It's always interesting how that completely changes. Like 1 year can really like change your like how people look at your stock or whatever. So I don't I think around 10, that's fine. Like I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah.
And like I would say and this is where we'll actually get into the list here that he put up. That this is where it gets like, I did not think that's where this is going.
There's 2 of them that I'm gonna
right
at. But I gotta pump your tires first, though, Z. Who are the 2 players that you think Corey Pronman said, like above and beyond, were the best 2 players at the World Junior Summer Showcase? And hint, you were very, very high on both of these players. And this is, across that entire like group that we talked about.
Did he say
not just Wild?
I don't know.
It could have been Holenka too. Maybe it's just like who showed up this summer in general. But
did he say something about Sweeney?
No. One Wild player and one non-Wild player.
Oh, fuck. I have no idea.
Zeev Buium, and number one, you didn't label him as a draft son, I don't believe necessarily, but like maybe you did, but like literally you were higher on this guy than everyone in the world this year. No one put him as high as you did that I saw. Like this shouldn't be hard. Who did you put extremely high on your draft board this year? I'll give you a hint. It wasn't 1 or 2.
Catton?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
He said like Catton's performance this summer is the reason that he put Seattle above Minnesota. Like he thinks that He thinks that having Catton and Shane Wright and of course Mr. Beniers, who just got his big deal, like having those three he loves.
Oh,
I gotta ask you though, when you look at their deficiency as well as Minnesota's, obviously you're not going to go back and redo it, but like it feels like it makes all the sense in the world for Bouillon and Catton to just like flip places.
Yeah.
No?
I think so. Yeah. Oh yeah, I just pulled up his list for Seattle. Yeah, he put Catton at 2. Yeah, I mean that feels about right. I mean it's so weird to me that the Catton thing to me was crazy because like coming into like for the last 3 years, Berkeley Catton's always been everyone had him very, very high, probably anywhere from like 3 to 6. And then like out of nowhere, I don't know if people were like, oh, I forgot that he's not 6'5". Because every time I would see someone say something about like why they had him at like 12 or 15 or whatever. It was like the size is gonna be like he's been hold on a second. Nothing has changed. He's only gotten better every year. But like he didn't shrink. Like,
well, but
not been a problem.
He didn't grow though. He didn't grow like Demidov did.
Which I mean, God, whatever. It's just weird. I can't handle the size. It's just so weird. Feel like, well, that would be harder for him to be a center. I'm like, well, guess what? He can do the same shit he's doing now. Like, he's great. Like, he's gonna be a phenomenal fucking NHL player. Yeah. Like, he's been playing in the WHL against guys who are older than him for like 3 years and putting up 100 fucking points. It's crazy. But you know what? Whatever. That's fine.
All right, we're gonna get into the list that Pronman has for the Wild, his rankings. But before we get to them, I just have to ask you. I'll just say numbers. Is 6 over 7 your biggest issue?
Yeah.
I figured.
Life. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a couple others. So the placements, I'm like, where are we? What are we doing here? But we should, yeah. We should just list off because he did.
There's one that's going to have fans in an absolute uproar.
He did a list of 13 and then listed a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Basically, I mean, we can basically call them audible mentions, but
9 being over 11 will have people shitting themselves.
Okay, we can't just say. You can't just say the numbers over and over. People are going to be losing their fucking minds.
No, they will lose their minds over that one. I'm scared.
Yeah. So I'm just going to rattle off the list, and then we'll go back just so we can do this.
Everyone, just remember 6, 7, 9, 11.
Yeah, just remember that. And again, so criteria here is... All right, skaters 22 years old or younger as of September 15th, 2024. September 15th is the cutoff year or the cutoff date for like each draft, regardless of NHL games, yada. Player heights and weights taken from the NHL. Of course, that's the first fucking thing he mentions after the age. And then he basically just grades on 4 different kind of tools, and then he has different tiers. So we'll list that.
Not
all right, the list 1 through. Okay. I know. I just read it. I just read what he wrote. Number 1, Zeev Bouillon. Number 2, Brock Faber, which again, the second I saw that, I was like, okay, this list is going to be interesting. Obviously, I wouldn't consider him a prospect anymore, but we're just going up by age here. Number 3, Marco Rossi. Number 4, Jesper Wallstedt. Number 5, Danila Yurov. And here's where it gets crazy. Number 6, Caden Bankier. Number 7, Liam Ogren. Number 8, Carson Lambos. Number 9, Charlie Stramel. Number 10, Ryder Ritchie. Number 11, Marat Husnudinov. Number 12, Rasmus Kumpalainen. And number 13, Aaron Kiviharju. And then, I mean, the version of like honorable mention on this list, We've got Hunter Haight, Riley Height, Damon Hunt, Riga Lorenz, Jack Peart, and David Spacek.
I'm
So
shocked
we can kind of go guy by guy here.
Yes, but can I just commend Pronman, given who Pronman is and how he evaluates these players, first and foremost off height? Kivi Haru being on the list and not an honorable mention is a big step for him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Proud of him.
So we can go player by player here. Some we'll spend more time on than others because, I mean, it's at least worth doing, like mentioning the tier that Pronman lists them in and then the 4 different tools that he grades here. But as like overall, obviously, again, the order of this list is, I would say, the same as about 2% of like Wild fans. But I think the key thing to remember isn't that he's ranking based, or it's that he is not ranking based on like upside and ceiling. It is essentially likelihood that this becomes an NHL player, and then that's where the ceiling part comes in. But a big piece of this, I just knowing how Pronman evaluates prospects in general, and then how he does these rankings, a big component is just like the path to get to playing NHL games. So like his honorable mention that we're calling an honorable mention, that is actually like he's the way he labels it is has a chance to play NHL games. That's not honorable. Like, so that's kind of where this list will different. Like we did the thing with Sound the Foghorn guys, where I think a good amount of our rankings were based on like ceiling. Gotcha. So that'll be coming out. But yeah, I figured it was at least worth mentioning that just because I feel like reading off that list 1 through 13, like, what the fuck? And specifically on, and again, we'll get there, but the Riley Height one, it's worth at least going through like the context because he does provide a couple sentences worth of context. Let's pick
the ones that matter. Like, we don't need to tell people about Faber and Bouillon, right? Like,
well, again, so he has Bouillon ranked first. I think that's people have Bouillon 1, 2, or 3. The tier that he puts him in is NHL All-Star, skating above average, puck skills above average, NHL average, hockey sense high end, compete NHL average. Again, I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on why Bouillon would have been put first on this list. He's got tremendous upside. Specifically, Pronman, who I don't think said this coming into the draft, mentioned that he looks like a guy that absolutely has first pair NHL All-Star potential, first power play unit. And again, the thing that he mentions with the defense is like he is more than capable of defending. Is it like Norris level defending? No, but doesn't matter. But again, so like I said, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on that one because that's not crazy. Number 2, Brock Faber. Tier, top of the lineup player, skating above NHL average, puck skills NHL average, hockey sense above NHL average, compete high end. We don't need to spend a ton of time on Faber. Again, I like not in my prospect pool, I guess, because he's absolutely very much so an NHL player. But the thing that Pronman mentions too is the fact that like we didn't really see this coming. The fact that he showed that he could actually be a pretty solid power play quarterback. Again, all things going well for Minnesota, this is probably your second power play unit guy, not your first. But again, he put up half a point per game this year. That's crazy. No one really, I don't think anyone would have been predicting that necessarily beforehand. But I would
said on the podcast that like 30 is what you should expect from Faber, like being a ceiling.
Being Wheeler?
No, Pronman.
Yeah. Sorry.
On their podcast. Sorry, not with us.
Right. Yeah, actually, that's what I was about to mention next because he says that in this article too. So that's perfect. 3, Marco Rossi. We don't need to say much more. The one thing I wanted to mention about Marco Rossi, though. Tier, bubble top and middle of the lineup players, skating NHL average, puck skills above NHL average, hockey sense high end, compete above NHL average. I think that checks out, honestly. The one thing about Rossi is like I mean, this is where it gets so fascinating, trying to figure out what the lineup looks like on day one. The one thing that if we can count on young guys performing better year after year here, like Rossi putting up 21 goals last year. If he improves, that's going to be big, obviously, for Minnesota, and makes him more of a candidate to be in like that top 6 in the center. That's one thing I was thinking about earlier today. I was like, we keep shitting on the fact they didn't go out and get like a top of the lineup, like center or whatever. If he can take another step offensively, that's going to be huge. But again, just mention that quickly. We don't need to spend a ton of time on this. Number 4, Jesper Wallstedt. The tier is bubble top and middle of the lineup player. It's funny, like he's like, what am I gonna fucking do for like the tools? Just put skating, NHL average, hockey sets above NHL average. That's fine. I mean, no qualms on that one. We'll see what they do with Jesper Wallstedt. Drive me up a fucking wall. Daniela, you're out at 5. Tier, bubble top and middle of the lineup player, skating, NHL average, puck skills above NHL average, hockey sense, NHL average, compete, NHL average, shot above NHL average. No real cons with that one either. Again, finally was allowed to play hockey last year. The KHL was one of their best players. They won the Gagarin Cup, whatever it's fucking called. And he was a big piece of that. Love that he showed that he was able to play center potentially even in the NHL. So hopefully he plays more center this year once he gets healthy, which should be the next week or two as the KHL season starts tomorrow, Tuesday. And now we can we're at the part of the list now where things are going to get crazy. Number 6, Caden Bankier. The tier is middle of the lineup. So like, and again, the reason I wanted to mention the tools thing or the grading tools or whatever is this becomes very relevant later on. So again, number 6, Caden Bankier, tier, middle of the lineup player. These are the tools. Skating, NHL average, puck skills, NHL average, hockey sets, NHL average, compete, NHL average, shot above NHL average. I just talked for a long time. What was your reaction to seeing this one at 6? The group chat was fun.
I love it. I love that he's like that high on this guy because he's one that we've talked about for a while, especially seeing what he did jumping in on that World Junior team. Like he's a guy that we kind of wonder, can he really make that next jump? A little surprised that like the one thing that was above average for him was his shot. Like among all of these things. And that's not saying that he's got a bad shot, but it's just like, this is a guy that I almost would have thought like hockey sense and compete would be pretty high on his list. And the fact that his shot is pretty much in line with Liam Ogren, as we're going to get into, that's more what shocked me.
Yeah. So, and this is where it becomes very relevant, where you mentioned the fact that a lot of this is based on just like likelihood to become a full-time NHL player. And then from there, it's like the likelihood that they'll fill that role that they're projected to. And again, so Province mentions that he projects like a middle 6'4" with a legit chance to be a 3C. And I think that's fair. Like you said, was surprised the one above NHL average grade was the shot part.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did show last year, as soon as he stepped in the AHL, he started scoring goals. And we've definitely seen him take a major step just in his shot in general, but like goal scoring ability, the fact that he can score in a variety of ways is not kind of like a one trick pony or whatever. Yeah. The last 3 or 4 years is relevant. This is just where it comes down to like so this isn't about ceiling then, because I think there's a couple of guys, but like when you look at what a lot of NHL teams, and the way we described Bankier before is like kind of like a jack of all trades, incredibly reliable player, low maintenance. That's going to be like every coach would love to have a Caden Bankier on their team. And again, his development the last 3 years has been phenomenal. Just seeing the steps that he's taken. And we mentioned that when he went to the World Juniors, playing on a 4th line, getting limited minutes, legitimately made an impact. and force his way onto the ice. Like, so I think the fact that he can play a variety of roles, and you can pretty much throw him on the ice in any situation, really. And he has that ability that he's shown the last couple of years where he can add a scoring touch as well. That makes him like a very intriguing prospect and player in general. Again, my big beef with putting him at 6 is just the ceiling part, where like you guys have behind him, you have guys like the big one, obviously, is Liam Ogren.
But
I totally get it though too.
Second sentence under analysis tells you everything about Pronman's thought process. He's a good sized center who can skate. That's all he fucking cares about. That's it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the fact that he showed that he can definitely play center, like that's where the positional thing comes in here too. But yeah, I'm telling you, when I was scrolling, I audibly gasped. Again, I'm a big Caden Bankier guy. Love Caden Bankier. Everyone that's been following this podcast for a while knows how the first year I was like very critical, and then next year he absolutely popped off. And then this year, or this past season, comes in and looks really, really good with Iowa on a bad team, but like put up legit points after missing a good chunk of the beginning of the season with injury. So he's just like continuing to develop and looks like a guy that should be a solid NHL player. And yeah, like a 3C on any winning team, for whatever reason, the guy that's a 3C and it's just like super reliable, everyone just remembers like that guy was huge. Like he was an extremely important player. The fact that he's got that scoring touch though, and he fills that two-way middle of the lineup in the center is like, that's why he's there at 6. But again, I think the big beef that everyone's going to have is just the question about the ceiling. So we'll see. Hopefully it just continues to develop, and we'll see what happens this year if he gets maybe a game or two. But we'll see.
Yeah. It is funny though. We got to like pump the brakes a little bit with all the fans that assume that Liam Ogren is a lock for this roster, right?
He's not. I don't think he can. I don't think they can put him on the fucking roster.
They can't afford him.
They can't afford fucking anybody. I went through Puckpedia. They don't have enough cap space to put any of their fucking guys that are not listed as like it's insane. They have like 760,000 in space. But anyways, number 7, Liam Ogren. The tools: skating NHL average, puck skills NHL average, hockey sense NHL average, compete high end, shot above NHL average. Thoughts on the tools?
I mean, a lot of it reasonable, fair. I guess you would probably know better than me on the skating and puck skills for him specifically from a longer track record of watching, but like compete high end makes total sense. Shot above NHL average. Again, the fact that it like aligns the same as Caden Bankier is surprising to me, but like, again, it's a loose tier. So like, I don't know. Nothing's crazy to me here.
I think my internet's good. Yeah. I actually do think the NHL average part of it's fair. The hockey sense one's kind of interesting to me. I'm somewhere closer probably to high end than NHL average. But I also can understand like kind of being a little bit more firm on that. The one thing, like the last sentence in what Pronman writes about him is he won't blow you away with his speed or skill, but he has enough of a well-rounded game to project as a middle six wing. I think the scoring ability tips the scales there, where he looks like a guy that could be a potential, like the well-rounded game and the fact that like his goal scoring ability is legit, like sniper above NHL average. I think to me that shows that he should be able to at least project as like a top six winger, like a type of that does play that like really well-rounded two-way game. Again, we said this before, like the idea of like a Liam Ogren, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Matt Boldy line is so intriguing to me. It's insane. I love that the idea of that in the future, because that's just a line that is all three zones. But I would have put him again just based on the ceiling. Like I don't see him. Like I don't rank him below Bankier, but again, like you look at like the likelihood or whatever that they hit, I get it. But again, just the fact that he's got that two-way ability that he really did in his draft year, kind of only had to showcase the offense, but he did show the last like year or two playing pro in Sweden, and then when he came over this year, did not look out of place in the few games that he played in the AHL and the NHL. I would project him more like the top six versus like a middle six. But it was just interesting to me. It was the 6 versus 7 Bankier versus Ogren thing is interesting, obviously.
Well, let's jump then to the 9 versus 11. Like that's the meat on the bone that everyone cares about here.
Yeah. All right. So at 9, we've got Charlie Stramel. The tier that he puts him in is projected to play NHL games, which I think that's accurate. Skating NHL average, puck skills NHL average, hockey sense below NHL average, compete above NHL average.
We really hope that the hockey sense one gets
first sentence in the analysis. There's no way to describe this season for Stramel as anything better than a disaster. That is accurate. It's extremely accurate. And then 11, Marat Husadinov. Tier projected to play NHL games is playing NHL games. Skating above NHL average, puck skills NHL average, hockey sense NHL average, compete high end shot below NHL average. The one thing I probably would have changed the hockey sense. I do think
hockey sense for sure. Yeah. Compete, obviously. I mean, if you're going to eat a puck at the end of the second period when you're up 3 goals, like
it's beautiful. Just God. Husadinov 2024. My president. It's I don't know. I would probably have them closer to. I think our ranking that we all did. I think everyone had. Or did we count? Yeah, we put
Husadinov was high. He was high.
Yeah, very high.
I
think a lot of it comes down to the. Yeah, he couldn't help himself. Obviously, the way it's gone for Stramel the last 2 years, no matter what you say about him, it's always going to be met not with kind words. And the one thing that we said was this is the one player that it's like, if you're going to call it like making excuses or whatever, you look at the last 2 years, you're like, yeah, I mean, fair enough. You know what? I can't. Usually it's like, all right, 1 year we can say, all right, this is the 1 year that he can have a bad year, whatever. It's like, what do you got for me now? Or like, what can you show me? Then he goes, the fact Wisconsin hires the one coach where it's like, oh no,
right?
He gets hurt, never earns the trust back. Really, just used on the fourth line, like not even playing center. Really,
couldn't get older
for his things. Like couldn't like make his age go. Like couldn't speed up time.
What I'd say on that though is both sides can reasonably be true, right? Like we are very justified in our defense of what has gone against him in the last few years, and like I couldn't have said it more outright in the rankings episode. This year, excuses no longer exist. He either does the thing this year or I'm done defending him, right? But I understand, like, for a casual fan who's coming that, like, wants your insight on our prospect pool, Z, I don't blame them for thinking he's a bum. Like, outside looking in, he looks like a bum.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, so it's interesting, too, because I do think, like, even if they both hit, they're like pretty close to their absolute ceilings, they're probably still, and this is where like this ranking, I'm like, okay, I can like get myself there. They're both playing a pretty similar role if they both hit relatively close to their ceilings. Like, I love Husadinov. He's been like one of, if not my favorite prospect in this pool for like since they drafted him. Yeah. He's played a ton of pro hockey in the KHL. He had 1 year where he went off offensively. His game in the NHL is not going to rely on big offensive numbers. Like, I don't see a world where he becomes like a top 6 center or wing, whatever. It's interesting because he does have some legit skills. His skating is insane, and he's an incredibly smart player. And again, like we've seen some offensive touch for him, but he's not going to score goals. He's not really necessarily going to be driving a line in terms of like creating all the offense in the world. His value just comes down to how smart he is and really the two-way game. I mean, everyone shit themselves when he won a face-off, and like even he was shocked by like I don't know why. That's two face-offs in a row. Sorry,
the reaction rocked.
Yeah, it was so, and hit was like ooh. When he said ooh, I it was way funnier actually reading the tweet where it was like Husatinov on the fans' reaction to him winning faceoff. Quote, ooh. I was like, I was dying laughing. He was like, what the fuck was that?
Ooh.
It was so good. But again, so I do think like if they both hit relatively close to their ceilings, like they're playing a similar role, like they're probably both, again, if they hit on your third line, Stramel projects absolutely to be a center. He's flashed the scoring touch in the past. He can really move for a guy his size, and he has the physical element that's like not just big and physical. He's fucking mean. And throughout his career here, the offense has not been there in college hockey. On the back end, he's been more than fine. Like he's been a very capable defensive forward still. But again, to justify where they took him above some of the other guys where they took him, you need to see a lot more offense this year. Even if he doesn't pop off, he needs to be one of Michigan State's go-to guys this season. And he needs to like take 1, 2, 3 steps forward based on what he's done at Wisconsin. But I can understand when you evaluate from like Prodman's point of view and how he evaluates the prospect, putting him above Husatinov, just the fact that they both probably play a fairly similar role in the NHL. And Stramel adds that layer of like toughness, physicality, and being mean, and the fact that he's 6'2" or 6'3" or whatever.
Yeah.
So I do understand that. I think we've already seen enough from Husatinov to know that he's a surefire NHL player. Despite his size, it does not get in the way of him. Like he is not afraid to go to the middle of the ice. He's not afraid to go in front of the net. And he does flash a like undercover skill, like the hand skills. But he's such a smart player that there should be a little bit of offense in there at least. And again, Stramel just in the past has shown that he does have like that offensive touch that he hasn't been able to show with Wisconsin. So again, I probably still have Husatinov above Stramel, or I definitely do, obviously, based on our rankings. But it'll be interesting to see if Stramel actually does produce at Michigan State. He is one of their go-to guys. It's going to be interesting then to see what the conversation around him is after this season, after this college season, if he does play well. Because he could find himself in a lot of lower, like good graces amongst the fan base if he does go off of Michigan State this year.
No, that's for sure. And I do think that if either of them pan out as a mismatch 3C, you're thrilled. Like you're not really going to look at like what the draft grade was for either of them. It's just like, hey, did either of them become this? If one does, you're pretty thrilled, and the other one hopefully can slot in as your 4C. I don't know, but not a bad spot to be in. The next couple of guys pretty much fit in exactly where we have them slotted in our rankings. So I think the one that we should wrap up with is just the write-up here from Pronman that I think it's reasonable.
Which I needed to mention which one. But what? Just because I did want to mention at least, so I mentioned the tools thing, which is like really interesting to me because again, so like bank here at 6, every tool other than the what was it? Shot was NHL average. The shot he had above NHL average for bank here. Kivi Harju, who he has at 13, the last guy that he actually ranked. Tier, projected to play NHL games, skating above NHL average, puck skills NHL average, hockey sense above NHL average, compete above NHL average, and yet finds himself 13th on the list. I actually still get it though. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Height, weight, below, significantly below, disgustingly below NHL average. At the same time, I still get it because there's just a ton of like question marks in Kivi Harju's game. But I just thought it was funny, like the tools are all other than puck skills above NHL average, but he's the only guy with that many above NHL average tools who like is this low. But gotta mention though, the preseason, he's looked so good. His preseason games. Oh, really good.
Love that.
But obviously the big omission from getting ranked here, Riley Height. And I got to find the miniature write-up that he did on that one. Riley Height's super skilled and intelligent. He dominated WHL and can run a power play like a pro. He is a small forward with so-so foot speed, though, so how his game will translate to the NHL remains a major question. Interesting to me. I think the way that he evaluates skating, you could say that a lot of guys have so-so skating.
He didn't say so-so skating. He said so-so foot speed.
Right, which same thing. Like I play the same. I'm like, I don't know. I've never watched him play and been like, man, if he had another level of speed, another layer of speed, he'd even be. I don't really see the skating thing getting in the way. The one thing that I could understand why there's going to be questions, it's like where exactly, what kind of NHL player is he going to like? Where, yeah, exactly. Like, where does he find himself in the lineup? I can kind of get there. I think the fact that he didn't make 1 through 13 is crazy. All you have to do is watch his draft year and draft plus 1 year, the WHL, playing with other guys who went first, second, third, fourth, fifth overall, and he's right there in terms of points. So, and the fact that he's got a really solid two-way game, I think should have at least garnered a spot at the 1 through 13. But that was obviously the number one.
Anyone's on this list.
Yeah. He's so good. He's so fun.
Yeah.
That was obviously the number one big time omission from this list, especially when a guy like, Ryder Ritchie had at 10. And I love Ryder Ritchie. Everyone knows how excited I was at that pick. The fact that he's got a spot there versus Riley Height, I think is fascinating to me. But the one other guy I really did want to mention too is one of the more intriguing prospects that I think is going to be a really good NHL player. I just don't see it happening in Minnesota is Jack Peart. So I'll be fascinated to watch Io this year and see how he plays. But I've said this a million times. I feel like he's kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit here because he's got some legit upside. He's such a prototypical two-way NHL defenseman now. What guys his size and his skill set, a lot of NHL teams would love to have a Jack Peart. I just don't know. When you look at some of the guys they have in the pool, I don't know if that's going to be in Minnesota. I don't.
Yeah. No, it's fair. Okay. Well, I got 3 minutes here for you to do your quick abbreviated rundown of what the preseasons look like, or, if you want to do U20, whatever, or you can keep going without me.
Real quick on the U20, Czechia. So the U25 Nations tournament happened last week. Czechia went 4-0. It's not like an actual tournament. It's just they played 4 games. Czechia went 4-0. Edward Charlie led the tournament in points. He went off. He looked phenomenal. Sweden went 2-1-1. Anton Frondell, top 2025 eligible. He only played in 2 games. He looked real good, though, in those 2 games. Put up a couple points. The other big-time prospect for 2025 from Sweden that played a lot was Carl Anborn. Big right shot, super mobile D-man. He looked phenomenal. I think he put up 4 or 5 points in 4 games for Sweden. But they looked really good. Finland went 2-2. Slovakia went 2-2. And poor Switzerland got the ever-living shit kicked out of them 4 games in a row. It was sad. But I at least want to mention that. And then the European preseason, Kivi Harju played 6 games so far, put up 3 points. He's looked really good for them. Kumpalainen's looked so good in the preseason as well. I think he's played 3 or 4 games. I looked at the underlying stats with him on the ice at 5v5. Shots are 70% in Pelicans' advantage, and expected goals are 68. And by the way, for everyone that loves faceoffs, he went 10 for 13 so far. Yeah. So put him on the team. First line center. He's looked really good. And Sweeney, again, super intriguing. Sweeney is still super intriguing to me in this prospect pool. He's a big, super mobile, right shot D-man, flashes a little bit of offense, but not really good at put up a ton of the NHL level. But I thought he's looked all right. For Ilves, she's playing around 14, 15 minutes a game. But yeah, KHL season starts tomorrow, Tuesday, the 3rd. Finnish Liga, their official season starts on the 10th. USHL starts the 18th. WHL in that league, the QM shit, I've never heard of it. That also starts on the 20th. SHL 21st. There's one more. OHL's on, where did it go? It's on my calendar. There it is, on the 25th of September. So we are in hockey season. Obviously, the NHL season starts soon too. But yeah, that's all I got.
We love it. So close. And obviously, as all of those seasons kick off, that's kind of where we'll prioritize our prospect coverage in the coming weeks. Every week now, Monday, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern, if we got any of the Boston faithful jumping on. But tune in every week. And as we mentioned, this is the last week that we'll be dropping the rankings with the Sound the Foghorn guys. Might already be out on YouTube if you want to check it out there. Otherwise, podcast on Thursday. That's really all we got. I think we're good.
That'll do it. Hell yeah, brother.
Z.
Oh God.
I've never had a garbanzo bean on my chest.
Don't. Got a chickpea on my chest.